the beloved 1986 classic Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home. Hello, Bryan. Perfect, right on time. Love it.
Sorry, I was having a bit of a
All
camera
good.
issue.
All
Can you
good.
guys hear me?
Yeah, it sounds
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
Sounds great. All right, we got the whole crew here. So yeah, we are just kicking things off. We typically, for those of you that are new here, we start with just an intro round, just a one sentence about who you are, and also what's your relationship to this Star Trek 4 specifically, and also the Star Trek franchise generally. So maybe we'll start with Sarah.
Well, I will have to say my introduction to the Star Trek franchise was probably with Stephanie's family. Stephanie, who's on the stream right now, my cousin, her dad was like a huge Star Trek fan. So I think I saw my first Star Trek at Stephanie's house, and it was Star Trek 2, and it completely wrecked me because I was freaked out by the little earworms. And then her big brother told us after we finished the movie, girls, those worms are real, and they're slowly making their way up from Florida. It's just a matter of time before they get to Illinois. Like, I 100% believed him. And I remember like being up all night, curled up under her comforter, like how soon do you think the worms are going to get here? So that was my first Star Trek franchise. But this was a much warmer, movie. Yeah. So this one I saw more when I was more like in grade school, and I was a little bit older, and I was recovered from the worms.
Yeah. How about okay, yeah, perfect. We'll go to Lisa first, and then we'll go to Jeremy. How about Lisa? What's your story?
Hey, I'm Lisa. I am actually a pretty much a lifelong Star Trek fan. So this was not my first foray into it. I loved Star Wars. I loved it, but deep down in my heart, I am a Star Trek girl, and I believe in the Roddenberry vision of the future, and I still think that we can get there. It'll take us some time, but we can get there. But this one, I actually didn't see it in the theater. I rented it. I think it was a Blockbuster thing. I brought it home. Nobody in my family is a Star Trek fan at all, and we put it on, and everybody was like, "That was great!" And I'm like, "Yay!" So that's my history with this movie. I do like this movie a lot, though.
Amazing. All right, Jeremy.
Thank you, Kyle. I'm so excited. Star Trek background. My mom was a diehard Voyager fan. Catherine Janeway meant a lot to her as a adult woman in the 90s. Yep. And I watched a bunch with her and was like, this is really good. But Kyle, the backstory with this movie is that I have never before this episode of Stream Team seen any classic Star Trek. I've never seen Shatner. I've never seen Nimoy. This was my very first story with that cast. And I have so much to say about it. I'm so excited to get to talk about it. And I also should introduce, since we're all on camera, show of hands, has anyone here been in a Star Trek movie? Like they acted in a Star Trek. Oh, Bryan! Bryan is in two of the Star Trek films, technically.
Two of them.
What?
I want to hear that right now.
So cool. All right, we got to segue to Bryan then. Like you got to fill us in. Yeah.
Sure. Well, I'll start off by saying that I was always like growing up. I was a casual fan of Next Generation. I feel like, especially for the fellow millennials, that was our generation. Obviously, since the original series was before our time. I also watched a lot of Voyager, but I feel like, it was when I did my first time doing background acting in JJ's first Star Trek that really kind of kickstarted, like, particularly my fandom in the original series characters. Because I joined. It was when I was 21 that I joined an open casting call in Burbank for what at the time was called corporate headquarters, but it had become, like, the internet figured out that was the secret code word for Star Trek 11. I mean, that was an incredible experience, especially for my first time doing a background role, because I played a Starfleet cadet, and if you remember in that movie, like, most of the movie takes place at the academy. So we did like several weeks spread out over several months of shooting on that movie.
Wow.
And I remember at the time going like, well, as a casual Star Trek fan, I feel like I should go back and actually, so I just remember like I think it was while we were shooting on it that I watched all of the original series, and then I made sure to watch all of the movies because I think I'd seen here and there, like I know I'd absolutely seen like First Contact and and maybe a couple more of the next gen ones. I hadn't seen the originals, so that's what kickstarted me going back and watching. I mean, if anything, the original series and is the only series I think I've seen every episode of. So so I feel weird even like because there's a lot of Star Trek I haven't seen yet, but I definitely went back and watched all the movies and fell in love with these characters, and Star Trek 4 is my favorite. So I'm very excited to watch this one.
Amazing.
Nice.
Cool. I'll jump from there only because you have a JJ thing, and as you know, as Sarah knows well, my only relationship with JJ Abrams was that I peed next to him once at a urinal.
Nice.
And so I got that going. So I'll say that's a connection. I'll say it's a connection to the franchise. But yeah, I also was like a lifelong Star Trek fan. I think as a kid, my dad had a surgery where he was recovering for a week or two, and we shredded through the entire original movie series. And then, of course, around the same time, I'm a little bit older, but X Generation was obviously also super formative for me. And then I became like Deep Space Nine nerd and all the various things. But yeah, have been a lifelong fan. And then 4, I think at the end, we're going to do a twist on Jeremy's ratings and also say, for those who are familiar with the franchise, where does the stack in the rankings? So think about that too. But yeah, let's kick it over to Sarah, and then we can end with Stephanie. She's thinking.
Didn't Sarah go?
Oh,
You
you
mean
went.
Jackie?
Jackie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jackie. Let's go to you.
Okay, well, I have no familiarity with Star Trek other than this movie, and maybe if Jeremy has taken me to a movie that's more modern. Have you, babe?
Yeah, we went to Star Trek Beyond, the third one, which some people like.
Okay, which I don't remember at all. I'm like, I feel kind of like an imposter in this whole chat.
Oh no!
But you look great.
Like I feel like I need to say right away, like I didn't feel attached to this movie at all and didn't really like it. So, and I didn't like the other stuff I've seen. So I just like, I feel like there's a whole language I just don't understand. Almost like something I haven't even gained access to. Yeah, and I felt that immediately when the movie started. I was just like, what is all of this they're talking about? But so that's
good. I think I liked it. It's a good perspective to have too. Star Trek's all about inclusive.
Okay.
So there you go. All right, Stephanie.
Absolutely. No, I mean to quick added comment to that. Like, if anything, I know famously, and J.J. Abrams was very open about this. He was brought in to direct Star Trek, direct and write Star Trek in part because he said he was not a fan.
Right.
So it's good to have a fresh perspective sometimes, and
He's a Star Wars dude. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, Stephanie, bring us home, and we'll jump into the next one.
Well, obviously, as Sarah said, I was, raised by Force, watching the original series. Like, it's just a favorite memory. So watching the movies was required. I don't know if I said this. No, I don't think I did. But when Star Trek 6 came out, we were forced to go to the theater. And I remember I had a really important school event that I was like the treasurer of this group. I'm like, Dad, I have to go. I'm like speaking at this school event. And he was like, you're going to be with your family. And we had to go. And it was a big deal. So Sarah was probably forced to watch it, whether she liked it or not. That's just what was happening. We had limited access to things we were allowed to watch. But for some reason, we were allowed to watch this. To be honest, Star Trek 4, I love them all because of childhood besides 1, but I don't think 4 is one of the best of the 6 with, I find 4 a little bit like, it's just kind of my personality where it's like, I don't find that type of humor funny that they tried to do in it. But And also, I'm coming off of watching 2 and 3, which were very intense, very emotional. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? And oh, sorry. So it was kind of like I wasn't in the headspace for it when I watched it. But of course, I've watched it so many times that so many of the lines are just part of my normal vernacular. Like, it's just part of my life.
Yeah.
I I have a lot of things to say about the movie, but that's kind of my background on it. I do like it because it's Star Trek and stuff, but I was so curious and like fascinated with people that have never seen it. Like, how are they going to do this? Like, Jeremy and Jackie don't know should they go in blind? Like,
Yeah.
I think we debated it offline on our Polar channel. I'm like, I don't know, man. I feel like they might need to see 2 and 3 to understand it, and then they might need to see Space Seed. If they don't know Space Seed, they won't really fully appreciate 2. But then I also thought it was really great just to hear what the heck they think of this movie, having no prior knowledge. But I was very concerned. So what Jackie says, I was like, I was afraid this might happen. I was very concerned.
Yes, we had an extensive conversation about, like, would you be confused? Like, why aren't they in the Enterprise? What is this weird green ship? Like,
yeah, I took a lot of notes about the beginning where they tried to do the recap, but I was still a little concerned for my new friends, and I was just like, but I'm so curious to hear your feedback. Like, I've been dying.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, having said that, I was gonna say, go ahead. We typically, before we go through the recap for Brian's sake too, and kind of we'll go section by section. I just open up with some general facts to kind of set the tone. So, a few facts about this movie. So, obviously, came out in 1986, the 4th installment in the Star Trek film franchise with the original cast based on the 1960s TV show. It was the second one directed by Leonard Nimoy, Spock himself. And it completes the story arc started in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, and continued in Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. After Search for Spock, Nimoy was asked to direct this movie, and he was given greater freedom regarding the content. Him and the producer, Harvey Bennett, conceived a story with an environmental message and no clear-cut villain. Few of the humpback whales in the film were real. There were ILM-devised full-size animatronics and small motorized models to stand in for the real creatures. There were a few real shots, but the majority were animatronic. Nimoy was inspired by the book Biophilia by Edward O. Wilson, which outlined the concept of a keystone species, that if a keystone species were to go extinct, it would threaten all other species. William Shatner, of course, portrays Admiral James T. Kirk, former captain of the Enterprise. He was unwilling to reprise the role of Kirk unless he received a salary of $2 million and the promise of directing the next film, which he got, with mixed results. Catherine Hicks plays Dr. Gillian Taylor, a cytologist on 20th Century Earth. During production, a rumor circulated the part had been created after Shatner demanded a love interest, which was Jackie's suspicion, a regular aspect of the television series that was absent from the first 3 films. Nicholas Meyer, the writer, denies this, but he says the inspiration came from a biologist featured in a National Geographic documentary he saw about whales. Nimoy chose Hicks after inviting her to lunch with Shatner and watching the chemistry between the two. And interestingly, the role was originally written for Eddie Murphy as an astrophysicist. That would have been quite a movie. And then finally, Shatner and Nimoy both received $2.5 million for the film, less than their original demands, but their rising salaries caused Paramount to create a new television series called Star Trek: The Next Generation with less expensive, lesser-known actors. That says a lot. Okay, let's jump in. So, plot summary to start. In the year 2286, an enormous cylindrical probe moves through space, sending out an indecipherable signal and disabling the power of every ship it passes. As it takes up orbit around Earth, the signal disables the global power grid and generates planetary storms, creating catastrophic sun-blocking cloud cover. Starfleet Command sends out a planetary distress call and warns all spacefaring vessels not to approach Earth. So, with this opening, let's start with Stephanie. What's your take on kind of this opening?
Well, as a kid and as an adult during my rewatch, I think the probe is freaking lame. It looks like a big turd. I've always thought it was dumb. It's like it's a Tootsie Roll. Adam was like, what is with the ball hanging out from underneath it? And then we made a ton of inappropriate jokes about the ball and the big thing. I thought the whole story, I'm like McCoy. I'm like, but that's crazy. Like, the whole story is ridiculous. The setup is ridiculous. The probe's not even cool. But of course I was fascinated and I was there for it. But I thought the probe was kind of lame.
I love the probe. I'm pro probe all day long. Like I love that it's so weird. It doesn't seem to belong in the same universe because like you're like, well, that's a ship, but it's like a hunk of charcoal or something, you know? Yeah. And I love that we never get a glimpse inside. We never meet them.
Right.
We never even really know what their intentions were. I thought that was really kind of gutsy storytelling to give you so little. I think it worked, but I don't think Jackie was impressed by the probe with ball on the end.
And also
Jackie.
that everything happened so quickly,
Just right away,
done.
instant probe.
Yeah. Jackie, what was your take on the intro and the probe?
I mean, I don't really understand how not telling the audience what a thing is gutsy storytelling.
because the reaction could have been this, like,
To me, it's just kind of this. It reminds me of modern Marvel movies where there's this big bad thing happening that's going to destroy the planet, and it's like, okay, cool, I guess, but where does it come from? Why does this matter? Like, I was just like, okay, like I had no reason to care.
You weren't satisfied though when you heard like the reason, like, oh, this is what this thing is. It's a probe. Now we know what its purpose is. Or were you still like, meh?
Well, like, probe is just it being a probe, the explanation?
Yeah, essentially,
it's coming from some life form.
Searching for communication. Yeah.
Yep.
Wait, say that again?
Well,
like the probe was sent from some life form, which, like Jeremy said, we don't really ever figure that out.
We know
it was a communication device to try to talk to these whales who they obviously had some type of prior contact. But really, there is no background on them. So you're totally right there. And so if that was like, oh, that was really unsatisfying, I don't think they ever answer that in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. You're right about the communication with the whales. I guess that wasn't enough for me to care.
I think in terms of like
hates whales.
Anti-whale.
Jackie, are you here at the protest? I just said, are you here at the protest?
I thought I should not come.
No, you don't. Great.
I mean, is this going to be a stream team first where someone leaves?
Bryan, God.
I just feel like I'm gonna yuck on it. Like I'm just like, I'm gonna ruin the intellectual sci-fi discourse.
No, it's fine. I mean, I think you guys have valid points about how it is very strange that it's just not fully explained. I for one, and teach their own. I for one feel like it was just sort of refreshing because, especially sci-fi movies like this tend to get really bogged down in exposition, explaining everything. Like, if anything, because one thing I've always loved about Star Trek is its themes about just exploration of the unknown and just establishing that this thing, or just not fully establishing what the source of this thing was, but that I don't know. I see your point about how it feels like they should have offered more exposition or some explanation for the origins of this thing, but I kind of like that it's vague, I guess.
Yeah. I'm kind of with you. I was going to jump to this later, but one of the things in the other research is that the studio wanted subtitles for the alien probe as to what it's saying, and Leonard Nimoy said, "No, you will ruin it." And so I'm kind of with Nimoy as well. Keep it ambiguous.
Of course.
I was
Lisa,
thinking, so Bryan, your comment about exploration was really great because I was just thinking about when I just turned on this film, because the beginning is pretty slow to begin. There's lots of credits, and then also the first thing that comes up is the dedication to the Challenger crew.
Yes.
And I was like, oh right, when did this come out? Oh, 1986. So I'm guessing none of you were alive in 1986, or okay. How old were you?
I was 8 and in grade school, and it traumatized me.
Yeah, second grade.
All right, so I was 15 at this time, and I was a freshman, and I actually witnessed it live on TV because my science teacher brought in a TV.
Yeah,
and it was it's very I don't know, just kind of, I couldn't quite place it. I couldn't quite understand what was going on. I was very young, obviously, and so you guys were even younger. So, but I loved that they did that, because also the first shuttle was named Enterprise, so, and also there's a carrier on this is named Enterprise too. I do love that focus of exploration, and that is kind of what they throw everything out the window, like exploration. That's what we're here to do, So anyway, that was my thoughts beginning this movie. But the probe, you're definitely right. It comes in, bam, done. No explanation. We're now in danger. And then who's going to come in to save us?
Yep. It is interesting too that they put that like the grim, sobering warning in front of like arguably the funniest Star Trek movie. So
I know, it's essentially a sitcom, So.
Yeah.
Which is also what I find refreshing about this movie too. Like it is it's very much on its own, like ultimately in the whole franchise, but obviously up until that point too, to take this departure into something much more lighthearted, much more grounded. I imagine, aside from the aforementioned salaries of these actors and what they were demanding, I feel like this had to have been one of the cheapest ones they've done, because they just had to film it in modern San Francisco, So.
Yep, 100%. Sarah, what was your take on the opening?
I remember thinking on this particular watch, gosh, it's a long time till we get to the fun part where they're running around San Francisco trying to solve all problems. I was like, man, I didn't realize it was like 40 minutes of like the probe and like talking on what's the planet that Spock is from?
Vulcan.
Oh, it's just called Vulcan, no creative name. On Vulcan, like there was quite a bit of that. And then I did notice on this watch, Kyle and I were laughing. They were trying to show that the probe was like having an impact on Earth. But I don't know if you guys noticed all the funny little things that were going on. There was like people that were like coming in to like hold the windows in place with these weird
the little
sticks.
window device.
What did they think they were doing? And then like they were doing their screens. They had like their screens like that were like
with
a
their
flat
dish
surface,
rags?
like yes, they had dish rags. They're like wiping the. I was like, what is happening?
I love that low budget way of showing trouble is just things on the wall will spark. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, here goes the probe, brace the window, and the water comes in, and you're like, oh no, it's gonna flood, I guess, but it doesn't. It just makes it real wet.
Yeah. And like the first ship that the probe encounters, like as soon as the probe encounters it, like the control panel just goes and starts smoking. It's like, why did that happen?
Yeah.
But
like we lost power.
But shout out though to the actor who, and he's like, it's his only scene, but he's like the actor on the ship that's had its energy sucked out.
Yeah.
And he's talking about like we're running out. No, it's really sobering. Like he's talking about running out of oxygen, and that really struck me.
No power.
Because space stories are terrifying, right? Like that movie Gravity is so freaking scary, and the idea of being in space in a blackout. Like that is viscerally terrifying, and that is why I like having no info on the probe. Is that I think horror is scarier if you don't know what's after you, really, and so that's why that landed well for me.
Yeah, no, it's a friendly little reminder that outer space wants to kill us all. It's one of those hostile. It's a very, very hostile environment. I mean, I've always loved the introduction of Bones in JJ's Star Trek, where he kind of reminds you that like. Yeah, everything out there will try to fry your eyeballs out, and maybe we'll hit a solar flare, maybe we'll depressurize, and get our. Yeah, it's just little things like that just sort of remind you that the unknown, especially in the final frontier, can be very scary. Very 100%. Deadly too.
Yeah. All right, moving to the next part here. So speaking of planet Vulcan, on the planet Vulcan. Yeah, so if someone wants to mute, it sounds like someone's got like a vibration situation going on.
Everybody, turn off your speakers, and if it keeps on going on, it's you.
Yeah, there you go. Try muting, if you will. Let's see. Anyway, on the planet Vulcan, the former officers of the late USS Enterprise are living in exile. Accompanied by the Vulcan Spock, still recovering from his resurrection, spoiler alert, the crew take their captured Klingon bird of prey and return to Earth to face trial for their actions. Receiving Starfleet's warning, Spock determines the probe signal matches the song of extinct humpback whales and that the object will continue to wreak havoc until its call is answered. The crew uses their ship to travel back in time via a slingshot maneuver around the sun, planning to return with a whale to answer the alien signal. All right, Stephanie, this is where it starts to heat up a little bit. What's your take on this part?
I feel like there's like so much to take even before
There's
that.
a lot here. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
even just summary that I think we're skipping about like the guy, Klingon guy starting. I don't know if we're going to cover that, but that's where your backstory is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting, right? Like I never caught this before when I was a kid, that they were in the middle of peace negotiations, right? Which we don't actually see happen again until 6, which I thought was really interesting because I missed that as a kid. And I'm like, oh, they're doing peace negotiations. And so that was like your background of what had happened, even though it was very briefly glossed over. But I thought it was interesting because it was true too, right? That there was no peace until Kirk actually was dead. And that they were in the middle of those negotiations. So it's kind of like, I feel like that was a really important part that I didn't even catch a lot of that as a kid. Going back to Vulcan, though, I was like, man, when Scotty's like, ringing Cleon, that's hard. I'm like, you've had 3 months, man. You've had 3 months to fix this ship. And you're just now like, oh, I don't know. I thought there was a lot of weird things. Like, what have you guys been doing there for 3 months? Bones is literally in the same outfit he was in.
Yeah, they all are.
Like nobody got new clothes. Like, yeah, Jackie, see, that's what I mean. Like, that's why I was like, it's very concerned for you guys. Like, there's a lot of stuff. But I thought the whole, you know, the whole storyline was kind of ridiculous. I thought there's some cute moments with McCoy, like when he said something about, you mean I have to die to discuss death with you? That actually made me laugh. But yeah, I thought it was a ridiculous storyline. And I remember even a kid going, this is stupid. Like, what is that? Like, and also, like, then of course I had a real, wait, are we at the time travel part? I had a real problem with that. I always have. Just because like the whole flash of their clay-like heads and then the body at the end.
Yes.
Why is Spock in a robe? I mean, I don't want to take up too much time. I could go on. I feel like that whole section, even Sabat going, I never got a chance to tell you about David. What do you mean? You've been there for 3 months and you just now are telling him what happened to David? Like, where have you been? You know, and just even the stupid, like, the computer knows that you're half human. How do you feel?
I loved that so much. I could not disagree more.
I like that part.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like that is where Star Trek and Star Wars diverge, is that I feel like when I watch Star Trek, I think a lot about my life and about, you know, politics and relationships and stuff. And Star Wars is more like, I guess, actiony. But I was so mad at Kyle and Sarah at the start of this movie. Because they're like, yeah, just go in. And Steph, I guess you too. Everyone who said go in blind really fucked us for the first 20 minutes of this movie. Yeah, Jackie and I are pausing it like, wait, why are they on trial? Did the Enterprise blow up? Is that gone?
Yes.
And Spock has already died and already come back. And I was just like, whoever it was who said, like, maybe watch this recap first, I think that was the right call. I don't think you need to watch 3 movies. The vibrator's back.
No. You definitely don't need to watch 1. So.
But so I was really worried. And then, like you said, once the time travel happens, it's like, okay, this movie is now.
You can see. Yeah.
It's consumable if you have not seen the other stuff.
It was to Sarah's point, too. I was the same. Like, wow, it took a while for the time travel. I was like, I forgot how long that intro is, for sure. Bryan, I think you're the source of the vibration, but do you want to chime in? What was your take?
Yeah, sorry about that. Well, maybe it's just the reverb when you guys are talking. Hopefully it's not vibrating too much right now.
Oh, it's fine. Just go for it.
Okay. I mean, it's just, I mean, it was interesting because I heard from Jeremy a couple days ago that he was going to be watching this, and this would be his first of the original crew at all. And realizing, because I know so many people lump. I mean, all the Star Trek movies are very much in the continuity, but 2, 3, and 4 are so often seen as like its own trilogy, and you know, obviously, it's still dealing with the repercussions of Wrath of Khan. But I also feel like, you know, and maybe Jeremy can chime in on this too, is that it feels like this stands on its own, I think, better than most other Star Trek movies. And yes, you needed to know that this Spock is a reborn Spock who's regaining everything, all his memories and everything from before, and kind of figuring out who he is. But I feel like that intro sets that up pretty well. Like, you may not know the details of how he died, why he died, but just know that this is a new Spock who's kind of regaining all of that from all of his knowledge and his memories from before, and figuring himself out. And and then the rest of the story is not directly relevant to Spock's resurrection. So
yeah.
I think you're misremembering it, because Jackie and I were super lost, and they never even state that it's resurrection, and I wonder if that's because of China law, and like how certain movies, if they depict an afterlife in any matter, it cannot be distributed in China. So like I kind of wonder if they deliberately left out the explanation. But the whole thing about Kirk and Klingons, and like, we have a right to preserve our race, and Kirk's accused of being a terror, and it was not well explained at all. But I will say though that this movie stands entirely alone once you time travel.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's where the movie started for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so then also, to end back at this weird trial thing. Well, I'll wait till we get to the end of that.
Lisa, what was your take on this part?
So I happen to love all the slow parts and the relationship parts, and Spock talking to the computer, the how do you feel, the training program. If anybody, I mean, Stephanie, you probably definitely know, like, there is so much lore about this Kirk and Spock relationship that you see. You do see it in the original series, but you mostly see it in 1 and 2. And especially at the end when he sacrifices himself. So now they're like, we can have you back again. But I do feel, it's so funny because I do feel that they get a little impatient with him. He's literally a newborn. He's like 3 months old, and he's starting to get back his memories and stuff like that, whatever the Vulcan things that happen with the Katra and junk like that. So, but they're all like, humans make illogical decisions. They do indeed. I'm sorry. I love all that dialogue. It's so fantastic and really gets to just reflect humanity from the future back at you at this point. And I actually check out more in the fish out of water stuff than I do in this stuff, because this is where I'm steeped. This is where I love all that stuff. I love the relationship. I don't get into the weird parts of the relationship. There's weird, I guess, slash fiction and junk like that with them, but I don't get into that. But you do see this really solid relationship between them. They are best friends, and Kirk's like, hurry up and get back here, So I don't know. That's kind of what I was thinking about.
Jackie, did you have a take on the part on Vulcan? The Spock's training?
Well, I agree with Jeremy. Like, I did not know what was happening until they had that fun 80s montage in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, now it's like a fun 80s movie, and I was like, oh, look, they're it's clever because they're interacting with humans, but they're these kooky aliens. And it was just very kind of typical 80s montage thing. And I'm sorry, but it was very apparent to me immediately, Whale Lady is just there to be a romantic interest for Kirk. Immediately I was like, oh, okay, he just wants this Whale Lady.
How can you say that based on how the movie ends?
That's no kidding.
Insane take.
No, I get that she at the end is like, I'm gonna go be a woman scientist, but the whole movie, initially I was just like, oh, she's that, that's a romance. And the chemistry was so not there. And it was really interesting to me. Her entire identity was whales. There was no other.
Did she have
whales?
Did she have a whale?
That was all she was whales. Yeah. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
She's got.
I didn't even think about the fact that her truck is also blue like a whale.
The
whole thing.
So first of all, this is my first time I've ever seen William Shatner playing Kirk. That guy has sexual chemistry with every
Yeah.
single
Yes.
person and object he
An
talks
object,
to.
absolutely.
Okay.
Not true.
Like,
What are you
no,
talking
everything,
about?
everything he says. It has like
He's
a.
like a gross, weird old man.
He is the crock pot that stews all day long.
Agreed.
He is just Lisa gets it. Lisa
I
gets
do.
it. He yearns, to quote Seinfeld. He yearns for everything. So I adored him, this character, that performance. I think he was worth the $2 million and the shitty movie that apparently comes after this. But I'm gonna throw Jackie under the bus because she does something that drives me insane. She was laughing during that whole sequence, that entire 80s corny cornball thing. She was cracking up, but then she doesn't like. I don't understand, babe, how you don't
It's like when
comedy.
you make me watch Simpsons. Like,
It's a comedy and you're laughing. What am I not getting?
it doesn't take a lot to make me laugh.
That's great.
Like, just because I laugh doesn't mean it's like a good movie.
It's our whole marriage right now, guys. Like, it's like
You can see both sides. The movie can be funny, but not necessarily good. You know.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
but I will say, to kind of backtrack a little bit and piggyback off of what Lisa and Stephanie were saying, is that, like, while I mostly remember and love this movie for the ways, for everything that it is after the time travel and everything, all the fun that takes place on Earth, I do love that they have that bit with, on Vulcan with Spock, and if at the very least because of how much Spock and his being human and Vulcan and what it means to be human is so much a central part of most stories involving obviously him, but the original characters, the original series characters. So getting a little bit of that, which is really just kind of the tail end of this story of his death and resurrection, I feel like a welcome addition to set up the fun that takes place over the rest of the movie. But at the same time, most of what I love and appreciate about this movie is kind of everything that happens after the time travel. So.
Yeah, exactly. Sarah, what was your take on the Vulcan scene at all? I know you love How Do You Feel?
How do you feel? Yeah, I like anything with Spock kind of dealing with his emotions and dealing with his half human, half Vulcan nature. I think Spock's the best character in Star Trek. He's the heart of the show. I think the reason that people love Kirk and Spock as a friendship is because everyone has a little Spock in them and everyone has a little Kirk in them. Everyone has this impulsive side, right? There's just acting on impulse, right? And everyone has like this logical voice in their head telling them what they should do. To quote your English teacher, Kyle, what was your freshman English teacher's obsession with duty and desire? Wasn't it your freshman English?
Maybe it's
I feel like you always just like, he just talks about how every novel just comes down to duty and desire. But I was like, I think that's an interesting framework for literature and life, right? Duty versus desire. And I think like Kirk and Spock like totally exemplify that. And I think that's why people like them as friends. Some people like to write them as lovers. I think some people just see both sides of that in themselves. It's always interesting to watch that push and pull between like those two types of personalities. So I personally, I like any time that I see Spock kind of wrestling with like his humanity. So I like that part of it.
Yeah, that's true, Bryan. Yeah, he was. I forgot. I don't think Sarah's ever seen Generations. We're gonna have to watch her because that's rough.
But don't go there before you go to 6. 6
that's right.
is good.
Yeah.
6 is good.
We'll end with that. My only added thing for this part before we move on to the next one is some tea on Savick that I was amazed by researching this. So if you guys are in part 2 for Jeremy and Jackie, there's this Vulcan character Savick who's a young cadet or whatever. Kirstie Alley plays her in 2, and then she does actually her I think it was her debut role or one of her debut roles.
Yes,
but then they recast her in 3 as Robin Curtis. And so she's in this one for like 2 seconds, like they're saying goodbye to her. You'll see it when they're on Vulcan. Anyway, they're on 3 as Spock's regenerating. He's going through Pon farr symptoms, which is essentially Vulcan puberty, and she relieves his symptoms. So it's hinted that she sleeps with him, but never said. But apparently, in the research for this, they were going to have Saavik be pregnant with young Spock's returning Spock's baby, and they cut it from the final cut. But that would have been a real twist because Sarah was bringing up things of like, what is consent in the world when your memory is gone and your regenerating body? Whole thing is messed up. Anyway, very good. Also, finally,
far, but we'll move on.
Well, yeah. Anyway, you can also book.
Far.
Yeah, you can book. Second tier Saavik on Cameo for $83 right now. So if anyone wants to give her a book, I might indulge in that.
Second tier Saavik.
Not Kirstie Alley, this Saavik.
Oh my God, Christy.
Stephanie,
Okay.
do up your birthday present there.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, moving on. As to keep moving, we're going fast. So now we get to the meat and potatoes. We're arriving in 1986. The crew finds their ship's power drained by the time travel maneuver. Hiding the ship in San Francisco's Golden Gate Park using its cloaking device, the crew split up to accomplish several tasks. Kirk and Spock attempt to locate humpback whales, while Mr. Scott, Dr. McCoy, and Sulu construct a tank to hold the whales they need for a return to the 23rd century. Uhura and Pavel Chekhov are tasked to find a nuclear reactor whose energy leakage can be collected and used to regenerate the decaying dilithium crystals. Okay, so jumping into 1986, what was your take, Jeremy? I'll start with you.
Well, I thought that the plot structure was a little odd. It really felt like, okay, we have 9 characters.
Yeah.
They all need something to do. So you guys are going to build the fish tank for the whole movie, and that's going to be like a whole subplot. And like, but when I realized like, oh, this is kind of a sci-fi comedy, like that made me criticize it less and kind of just go along with it more. And I think the movie works really well when you just kind of go along with it. Mm-hmm. I thought all of the interactions with the 1980s were completely hilarious. I love Scotty trying to do the computer, it's like, and it's just so it's wild to watch though, because he's trying to use voice command, because all enterprise technology is voice command. And the joke was that when this movie came out, no, that's not a real thing, but now it's a real thing. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like everything is voice command in 2026. Mm-hmm. So it was a real trip watching what used to be futuristic, and that's why I kind of get Lisa's point of like, oh, maybe we can have that sort of Roddenberry future. Babe, a Roddenberry future is like a utopia where like we can all get along, and if we all get along, then we'll all get further. That's kind of the Star Trek belief.
Yeah.
I agree, Jackie. You should put in the chat. I do think Star Trek people think they're smarter than Star Wars people. That is true.
No problem with that. A lot of Star Trek people are Star Wars people. I'm a Star Wars person. I'm on a Star Wars show right now.
I am too.
Yeah. What was your take, Bryan, on the on this first of the time travel part? Yeah.
Well, I mean, just to piggyback a little bit off of what Jeremy was saying, it is kind of interesting and fun how much like Star Trek has the dated ways that things have changed in terms of our modern technology as well, and like when the aforementioned voice commands and things like that, or the fact that clamshell phones were inspired by Star Trek and have already become dated. Even the whole notion of the communicator being a futuristic device back in the 60s. I mean, that's cell phones now, so there you go. Exactly. So it's interesting seeing this kind of, especially as this movie has aged, how much this is become dated in its own way. Like not in a way that makes like it just because obviously at the time this movie came out, it was seeing all these characters in modern day Earth, and now it means something very different here, where we're going back to a time that younger people wouldn't recognize, yeah, I don't know. I mean, ultimately it comes down to what I find the most fun about this movie, that it's it doesn't take itself too seriously. There's a lot of characters, and they all have to play their part, and the fact that some of them get sidelined building a giant tank is like it seems like is it really that important in the grand scheme of things? But I mean, at the same time, it's with an ensemble cast this big, and you need to focus on your main characters and a little bit more. It's you know, I think it's fine that some of them get relegated to comic relief or side plots. Yeah, ultimately, I just, you know, this is where I feel like the movie gets good, where it gets fun. And especially all the humor of the, like the stuff on the, you know, on the bus with the punkers. Can you turn that back, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
What, Jackie, what was your take on this part? It's like the tone shifted a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. It was like this shift to, like I was saying earlier, this sort of fun 80s montage. It did get me thinking about how, like, the shift in how we view technology. Like, I think, like, back then, technology was still this, like, source of good and magic, and, like, it's interesting, and, like, it had this, like, it did bring up for me these nostalgic feelings of, like, a time when new technology was like something good for humanity and something we could use for good. And now we're living in this time where I think it's very antithetical to that. So I really liked the tone. I did like the tone of this over like Star Wars movies, where there's this like optimism and there's this like camaraderie, and like there's Spock grappling with what it means to be human and how that actually means like having your feelings. Like there are those like beautiful undercurrents that I did appreciate. So yeah.
Nice. How about Lisa? What was your take on this part?
Well, as I said earlier, this was the part that I checked out a little bit for. There are things that I love that going through this. It is very funny. It's a little slapsticky. It's a little sitcom-y, little family sitcom-y for me. I do like the through line of Spock through the whole thing, using hell and damn all the time. It's very funny, and he does it very, very well. He's just so good at this role. He was born to play it. And it's so interesting that he went through his phase of I am not Spock, I am Spock. That just Leonard Nimoy was amazing. So I also do want to mention the punk on the bus, because I don't know if everybody here has watched Star Trek Picard, which is the end cap.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. They redid.
Yeah,
Yes.
so he was on not with anybody from the original series, but that guy, his name is Kirk Thatcher. He also served as an associate producer for Star Trek 4. And he wrote, performed, and recorded that song. And I think there was another song in the new one. But he did. I thought it was just a really fun piece of trivia that he performed in both of those. And he was like, I really like the song, you know. So I really loved that part a lot. And it is kind of also my middle-aged psyche was coming up going, oh my God, how did they get it? How did they get in? How did he get into to look and ask questions about the helicopter? How did they get into the aluminum plant? I was like, oh my God, this has never happened today. But of course, remember, it is 1986, a little bit less security, a little bit less cameras going on and stuff like that. So maybe it's okay. And then I was like, okay, it's fine. It's all fine in the end. So
pre 9/11, you could just walk into anywhere.
That's right. Wow. That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Before I go to Sarah, I'm a huge fan, as she knows, of the Garbage Men at the beginning of the park.
Yes.
Where the ship comes in and their little sassy banter.
Yeah.
So we're talking about that, or I think there's another one. There's a couple at the end where the ship takes off, like going as a couple's Halloween costume, where no one would understand it at all. Or the Garbage Men from Star Trek 4 would be amazing. But Sarah, what was your take on this part?
I mean, I don't know what to say. I feel like this part is such an important part of my growing up. This is the part of the movie that I liked as a kid. I think this is the movie that got me into Star Trek. And I think I learned to get into the other Star Treks because of this one. So this was like a gateway Star Trek for me, because I think it was funny, and I think it helped me get to know the characters. So it's interesting. I know the beginning was a little intense with, like, if you didn't know, you know, the lore, like there were things that you didn't know. But I think for me, it was the perfect introduction to Star Trek, because even though technically the worms were my introduction, but this was the first one I ever really liked. And And I think it got me familiar with all the characters and like what they did on the ship. And like Scotty's the engineer and Sulu's like the pilot, and like kind of learning their faces, learning their names, learning a little bit about each character, and then caring about those characters because it was funny and entertaining. But they came to my world first so that I could learn who they were, because they were in the world I recognized. And I always think of fish out of water stories appealing and fun as well. And so you kind of almost have two fish out of water stories, because you have the Federation, the people from, the 23rd century trying to fit in 1984. And then at the end, you have Jillian from 1984 trying to fit in the 23rd century. Yeah. So you actually kind of get two fish out of water big moments, which I think that's kind of fun. And yeah, I don't know if I would have ever liked the other Star Treks if I hadn't watched this one first. So I think in that way, like the movie really worked for me to get me into the rest of the series. So
yeah,
yes. And I mean, there's not a day that goes by that we don't quote parts of this, either hello computer or keyboard, how quaint, or what Kristen always says, not now, Madeline, not now.
Or
what was with Madeline? Why did she just step in, get yelled at, and then disappear from the movie?
Yeah,
I know, because she was great. The way she crept in.
Somebody's
So
wife
funny.
wanted to be on TV.
And Stephanie, do you have anything else on this part for the first part in 1986 that you wanted to?
I actually liked this part. Like once I got past this story's stupid and ridiculous, then I'm like, okay, but then it was really fun and silly. And I think, like there's so many lines for it, from even when he sells his glasses, which is from Star Trek 2. But Chris and I always we're like, is that a lot? Or even the dumb line where she's like, oh, I don't think I can answer that question. I think it's across the bay. I say that all the time.
Yeah.
So that whole part, everything about the whales, maybe he's singing to that man. I love that old woman. I like when he talks to Jillian. Oh, I suppose they told you that, huh? The hell they did. Like, I thought all that stuff was funny. I was very concerned about why they left the pizza and beer behind. Like, I just remember thinking, that's a good beer. That's a good pizza. Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And then I was like, she's just going to wait for us in the park? And he's like, it's his way.
He did box the pizza.
But I don't know. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
They boxed up the pizza. I was following that.
Yeah, I liked all of those parts. I like the hospital part where he gives the lady a new kidney.
I know.
Yeah.
That man gave me a pill and I grew a new kidney.
Yeah. Dialysis.
That's one of my favorite moments, when he's just the way he just when he hears about dialysis, like, oh my god, the Dark Ages.
Total
I love the
disdain.
whole hospital scene.
Yeah.
And of course, Chekhov's run, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Speaking of that, let's move to that as we keep pushing forward. So Kirk and Spock discover a pair of humpback whales in the care of Dr. Jillian Taylor at a Sausalito aquarium, and learn they will be released into the wild. Kirk tells her of his mission and asks for the tracking frequency for the whales, but she refuses to cooperate. Meanwhile, Scott and McCoy trade the formula for transparent aluminum for the materials needed for the whale tank. At the same time, Sulu secures the use of a Huey helicopter to transport them. Uhura and Chekhov locate a nuclear-powered ship, the aircraft carrier Enterprise. They collect the power they need, but are discovered on board. Uhura is beamed out, but Chekhov is captured, interrogated under the assumption that he's a Soviet spy, then severely injured in an escape attempt. So I'll pause there before we get to the hospital. What was your take on all their various missions? We talked a little bit about this already with Hello Computer and the Scotty scene, but any takes on, maybe we'll start with Sarah, on any of these, kind of putting together Chekhov's chopper story and Kirk's dinner with Jillian?
No, I think I already kind of talked about this part. Just the I just put it in the chat. Isn't Bob just horrible? Jillian's boss at the and he's such a dick. And I love the part when he says, like, oh, it's never been proven that they're that intelligent. And she's like, come on, like, I don't know about you, but my empathy for someone is not limited to my estimation of their intelligence.
Such a good
I
line.
actually really like that part.
Oh, I love that one.
I wrote that line down.
Yep, I did too.
I really liked this is also part of the movie where Kirk and Spock are off on their own little, so everyone gets in little teams, you know. And I feel like one of the best laughs of the whole movie is when they arrive in San Francisco in 1986, and they're like, okay, everyone go. And Kirk looks back, and they're just kind of milling about. He's like, hey, split up. Like, you look like a cadet review.
Yeah.
And like the way that the actors are kind of like, they don't really know where to, it felt so real. It almost feels like that joke was improvised. That's how good the comedy is. And I loved, you know, I mean, the most entertaining pair is, of course, Kirk and Spock, because you know, they're playing off each other. You get this very real friendship, this very natural chemistry between these two actors who, I mean, how many years had they played these parts at this point?
I think, what is it? Was it 66 or so, Bryan, it started?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, when the movie came out in 80s, so
20
years?
20 years. Yeah.
That's wild.
I mean, on and
like,
off, but yeah.
When you play a character for that long, it just kind of becomes like a second skin, and I think that was really douchey. But I loved this moment when Kirk and the Doctor are clearly vibing, and so they're like, "Okay, let's talk to her. Let's just what do we have to lose? The whole planet's gonna die. Who cares if one human being knows what's going on, right?" And they go to her car, her truck. I love her truck, the horrible noises it makes.
Yeah.
Such good show don't tell, you know, of like, oh, she does not have a lot of money, but she just loves whales so much she doesn't care about the pay. And so she gets in the driver's seat, and you can see William Shatner move for the car door because he wants to sit next to her. And Nimoy gets in there, Spock, right? He Spock blocks him, basically. And that was my favorite note of the whole movie. I had to say it out loud, Kyle. There you go.
You did it. Wow.
So
Amazing.
fun, though. So fun.
Jackie, anything to chime in on? I suspect to be like, I don't know.
Oh, I mean, okay. I'm gonna just get all kind of serious and sad, but I really liked how real they got with the violence on the whales. Like they like showed that video in the museum.
Oh yeah, with all
slicing them up. Oh yeah.
I
and
swear to God, I knew you were gonna say that.
What?
I literally knew you were gonna say that.
Jackie must be loving all this real whale violence.
No, because I knew she would appreciate like that they went there. I just knew it. I knew she.
Yeah. But does everybody know that supposedly there was that law in January of 86 that outlawed whale hunting like around the world? So I actually looked it up. I'm like, they don't still do that, do they? But they did, obviously, all the time, right? And so I looked it up, and it was, the International Whaling Commission adopted a global moratorium on whale hunting, that commercial whaling that went into effect on January 1st, 1986, 11 months before this movie was released. Obviously, they were in production before that, you know, so. But still, it's still a good message, a good save the whales, ecology kind of message.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Bryan, anything else on this part you'd want to chime in on?
Yeah, I mean, like if anything, environmentalism is just becoming more and more timely as sadly we destroy our planet. And so ultimately, I love, as poignant as it and heartbreaking as it is, that they didn't shy away from the brutality that whales would face and just the general environmental nature of this story. And also, you know, on a very basic level, a lot of what I love about the lore of this movie that it posits is, you know, the notion of just never underestimate the consciousness and intelligence of animals, and you know the notion that, you know, whales may be communicating in a way that we don't even fully understand and fully respect. It's part of what I love so much about this movie. And to backtrack a bit and kind of piggyback off of what Sarah was mentioning before about how, like, in the context of this movie and the way that everyone sort of splits up and the roles that they play in 1986, I feel like in a lot of ways showcases each of the characters and their strengths and the roles that they play a little better than some of the previous stories. Because I mean, even in some of the films, especially like 2 and 3 before it, I feel like, kind of more often than not require a little bit more of a previous knowledge of these characters. Obviously, Wrath of Khan is very much a sequel to Space Seed. Quick aside, my hot take is that Wrath of Khan is very, very overrated. I know a lot of fans generally consider it the best one, and I feel like, look, don't get me wrong, I think Wrath of Khan is a solid action flick, and it has so many great moments in it, but it is also, in a lot of ways, I feel like the least Star Trek, the least Roddenberry's original message. It is very much a revenge story, whereas a movie like this, I feel like very much is much more aligned with Roddenberry's vision to kind of also piggyback off of what Jackie was talking about earlier, the optimism of Star Trek, the positive message about where humanity can lead, and that is very much intrinsically tied with its environmental message as well. So, yeah.
Stephanie, you got to chime in on this. It's your take.
Gosh, well, I'm still recovering from the line about Star Trek 2, but it's okay because I respect all opinions. But what the hell? I think, of course, I think I always just can't decide if 2 or 6 are the best, honestly. So, but of course, I think I kind of already covered these parts of it. I don't know. I don't know. I think I already covered kind of this part of the thing. So I think we can move on if I'm the last person.
Yeah, the last one is Sarah, and I don't need to go because Sarah can speak for me if you want to speak to the role of Chekhov's run and Hospital Chase in your life.
Oh, okay. If you want me to tell the story. So for like probably 20 years, Kyle, he used to do this on mix CDs when he would burn a CD, and now he does it on any playlist. But for like 20 years, on every single playlist, he would either put Chekhov's Run or Hospital Chase from the Star Trek 4 soundtrack. And you never knew when it was going to pop up, You'd be jamming on a road trip to some tunes, and then all of a sudden,
I feel like we heard that when we were in Florida and we were like playing games or just making dinner, and it was like, I don't know. I'm like, is this what I think it is?
I don't know why those two, but always those two, both from the hot. Yeah. So
it's amazing.
Okay, let's bring it to a close because we're going. Then we can give our takes at the end here. Okay, so Jillian learns the whales have been released early and goes to Kirk for assistance. Jillian, Kirk, and McCoy rescue Chekhov from a nearby hospital, speaking of Hospital Chase, and return to the now recharged bird of prey. After saving the whales from whalers and transporting them aboard, the crew returns with Jillian to their own time. On approaching Earth, the ship loses power due to the alien probe, crash lands into the waters of San Francisco Bay. Once released from near drowning, the whales respond to the probe signal, causing the object to reverse its effect on Earth and return to the depths of space. So before we do the final scene, what was your take, Stephanie, on the end up until the last scene with Kirk's
not the court-martial scene? Oh, okay.
Right.
Yep. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure everyone's going to be like, I loved when they all were in the ocean with the whales. No, I did not. I thought that was stupid. I couldn't get into it. I like the whales. I was very happy that the whales were saved. I think Jillian joining, like, I've got nobody here. Who said it earlier? Something about her whole life is whales. I was like, she's leaving her whole life behind. Like, and then she jumped in the beam with him, and he's like, you tricked me. I'm like, beam her back to the ground. You have the power to get rid of her. Like, so yeah, I was very happy. And then of course I like, there'll be whales here. Let's go get George and Gracie. I really like that line too. But yeah. That's it.
That's it. Jackie, what was your take on the end through to the whales being back in their ocean in the future?
It turned into a very cliche. It was just very, very cliche to me. Like, I was like, okay, the happy things are happening now, and the girl is going on the ship with him, and I didn't really feel anything.
You hate nice things. Is that the problem? I really love. hates whales. I mean, whales are overrated, but I love the sense of joy at the end. So I thought the whole Chekhov thing was so stupid because this movie is too silly for Chekhov to just beef it off the side of the edge
Yeah, that
there
was
and then
hardcore.
almost die. Like I don't know if you guys saw
Oh,
Moana.
that's what you guys are talking about.
Yes, yeah, the Chekhov.
I thought you were guys talking about the playwright, the author.
Oh my gosh! Like
No.
Chekhov's gun. Wow, you're too smart for this movie, babe.
Stephanie and I had a whole conversation the other day, Jeremy, about how poor Chekhov in every film, they just give him the stupidest thing to do, and they make him like the idiot, and it's kind of sad.
He's always the idiot. He really is. It's quite sad.
But you know,
Just putting down Russians.
in Moana 2 is a really stupid movie, but there's this scene where like one of the side characters almost dies, and Moana looks at the camera and goes, "Mooney almost died," and I was like, "You're not doing this. Like, I don't care about Mooney. Making Chekhov almost die was just really weird tone shift that I didn't think really worked." But I did like the finale of the movie. I liked that it's not some big fight scene where they have to like punch harder or blow someone up. You know, I thought it was kind of funny how they're like, "How are we going to stop the whalers?" And the whalers shoot the harpoon and thunk, doesn't even ding the Klingon ship, you know. But I was particularly struck with Kirk going in underwater. William Shatner, I guess, actually shot those swimming scenes, but like underwater scenes in movies stress me out so much. I'm always like, you need air, get out, you need the surface. I'm a terrible swimmer.
Yeah.
And that feeling of being in the deep end of the pool and touching the bottom is so scary to me.
I know.
So just watching that, it's always an easy win for me. But I also really loved the scene where they're in the water splashing and they're throwing each other in, and because it felt very, I know Steph hated it for some reason, but I just felt like it felt very real and these people were actually friends. It seemed like they had fun filming that, you know, and I like seeing that in the movie.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Lisa, what was your take on this ending part?
Well, so yes, I did think the whole thing with the hospital and Paolo was a little bit ridiculous, but it's fine. You get one more like slapsticky kind of scenes before you get back to, okay, now we have to get back to Earth. I didn't care one way or another whether Jillian came or not. Obviously, you know, you're like, oh, well, she could be a future love thing for Kirk. And I'm sure that's what he was thinking too, which is why he didn't beam her right off the ship. So, but my favorite part about this was Spock having a hard time with calculating how to get back to their time, which by the way, everybody missed in the beginning. They said, we've done it before. Well, they did do it before. They did that stupid slingshot thing. Actually, no, it wasn't a slingshot thing. It was an episode from 1969 where they were trying to escape a black hole. And that's how they got back in time. And they had an astronaut, and it was like all kind of, I didn't like that show very much, but that's fine. So they've done it before. But he was having a hard time coming up with the calculations, and here comes Bones, you know, sidling over. He's not going to tell him he's a green-blooded idiot. He's going to be like, well, it's okay, just make your best guess, you know, and it so kind of brought Spock home to, okay, now I can kind of not be so uncomfortable anymore with the humans and my humanness, and, you know, your best guess is the best thing that we could ever have because it's you, right? So I did love that point, and of course they got home, bam, just fine, right? So
no problem. Bryan, what was your take on this ending part?
No, I mean all around, I thought it was nice that kind of to what you mentioned before about the approach that they were going with this movie, that the conflict didn't really involve a clear-cut villain. And I like the way, that this, you feel the sense of accomplishment without there being something to defeat per se, you know, just trying to you know, take the whales with them and you know, save the day in that way. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what really else to add other than what we've kind of commented on before, in just that. I think this ending works. I think the movie on a whole works. I like that. I mean, even though it's a little unusual amongst Star Trek movies with this whole, you know, no pun intended, but fish out of water kind of feel of these characters in modern day Earth, or at least a timeline that's in a time that they're not as familiar with, but the viewer would be more familiar with. I think it I mean, it harkens back to their, like, City on the Edge of Forever is considered one of the best, if not, most often considered the best Star Trek episode. And that involves, them being fish out of water in, like, what was it, the 1930s,
right?
20s, 30s?
Late 30s, I think, right before we went into World War II.
Is that the one where he falls in love with the woman and then he has to let her die?
Yes.
She's a Nazi, right? Is that right?
Yes. Although I'm amused that you started at the one where he falls in love with a woman, like that's all of them.
That's all of them.
I know. That's why the Jillian thing is they just had to give him
Yeah. I mean,
yes, that's what it was. Yeah, that was a sad episode, actually. That
it's a really good episode.
It's no Tribbles, but just kidding.
Yeah, right.
Love Tribbles too.
Yeah, and just how brutal that ending is too, where it's just like, where he realizes he needed her to die to save the timeline, and it's so good.
Yeah. So, Sarah, any takes on this final scene to the whales coming back?
I don't have too much to add. I just thought the scene where they were in the water splashing around went on an awful long time, and we knew they were going to talk to the probe. We didn't need like 15 minutes of whale footage and then another 5 minutes interspliced to the probe. It was like, look, get to it. I honestly could have done more in San Francisco, more slapstick, give me more of it. I would have liked to see how Sulu got in that helicopter. We saw him talking to the helicopter pilot, but like as soon as we got to that scene, I was like, wait a minute, he just has the helicopter? Like the guy taught him how to fly it, but that doesn't show like, how did he get it? Did he just steal it? Did you rip that off? I mean, like what happened?
It's so interesting knowing the note that executives wanted subtitles for the probe and whale conversation.
Yeah,
because Sarah's right. The whale probe conversation is legit 4 minutes of. It's like 4 minutes. So I feel like there was a script there. There was dialogue we just couldn't read. Otherwise, that's kind of awkward. I don't know. They're building tension, but that was weird.
Yeah. Okay. Final part, and then we can give our commentary here. The Enterprise crew stands judgment between the Federation or before the Federation Council, which acknowledges the crew's part in saving the planet and drops all pending charges except the one against Kirk for disobeying a superior officer. Kirk is demoted to the rank of captain, but as a furtive reward for his heroics, he's returned to the command of a starship. Kirk and Jillian part ways. She's been assigned to a science vessel by Starfleet. Spock's father, Sarek, finally accepts his son's earlier choice to enter Starfleet, further mending their broken relationship. The crew discovers they have been awarded the newly christened USS Enterprise, NCC 1701-A. Lisa, what was your take on the ending here? Back to the Enterprise.
I know it's kind of weird, but I always love that moment.
Yeah.
Where his he's allowed to do what he does best, captain his ship, captain the Enterprise. And now we have the A, which of course sets off, you're like, oh yeah, Enterprise, Next Generation is D, so, and they actually get an E later on. So I thought it was a great moment. And I also think that Spock coming back, getting into his uniform and standing with his crewmates, even though he had nothing to do with what happened, was appropriate. It was really good. I loved that. And it cemented them back together as this found family, which is another theme in this movie. Your found family sometimes is closer than your given family. So
yeah, totally. And while we're here, since we're running long on this, it's a big topic. What are your best and worst parts of this movie?
Best and worst parts. So I think the worst parts, oh God. I just think like there were so many like hokey points, I guess, in San Francisco that were just to me. But I do really think that the moments between Kirk and Spock, where Spock finally wakes up, especially like in this last part. I don't know if I wrote down any lines and stuff like that, but tell mom I feel. Tell my mother. Spock says, "Tell my mother I feel fine." Yeah. And that is, I loved that point, and it wrapped it up. So it's hard to pin down one worst point and one best point, but sure. That's how I kind of I'm polarized on this movie.
Nice. Bryan, where do you stand on this last part, and then also best and worst part of the movie?
I'm not sure if I'm a good one to ask that, because I'm not sure if anything sticks out to me as like something I would. I mean, there's there are ways that some of it has become dated, maybe not the best ways. But all around, like I mentioned at the beginning of the discussion, this is probably my personal favorite of all the Star Trek movies. Well, I don't know. I mean, my favorites are basically this, First Contact, Star Trek, JJ's first Star Trek. I actually really, really love Beyond as well. Whichever one I've probably seen most recently is probably going to be my favorite.
Yeah.
I mean, all around, I probably would answer with this movie. I think it's just the most. It doesn't take itself too seriously while also having serious messages about environmentalism and really showcasing these characters in a really fun way. So I don't know. I think it's perfect. Not change nothing.
Jackie, what was your take on the ending and your best and worst?
Well, the ending really solidified for me the sort of Kirk worship that I think might be central to this whole thing. Like, I was just like, oh, okay, like, okay, I may sound like a way too like liberal right now, but like, you want to be super inclusive, and this movie is very progressive, and I think I'm like assuming the franchise is very progressive, but at the end of the day, this is about an old charming white man that everyone's obsessed with, that gets a bunch of women to fall in love with him, and then like they're all obsessed with him and he becomes captain again. I don't know, it just like really drove home that he is like, I don't like him. I don't really get the appeal, and I didn't like that. And then my favorite parts of it were definitely like I was saying earlier, like, we are so inundated right now with like bleak dystopian like media, and especially with technology, and even it was nice to see like using science and medicine and for good, and like what progress can actually mean, because we've like, I think just like as a whole, we've like lost what progress can mean in a beneficial way for humanity. And it was like really refreshing to see moments like that. That was the best part. And then like, to me, like, I guess the worst parts were, I found like the relationship between him and the whale doctor woman very hollow. It rang hollow for me. It just seemed very superficial, and that's it.
How about Sarah? What was your take, and what's your favorite best and worst part?
So best and worst parts, I think I already kind of alluded to my worst parts, which is I thought there was a lot that could be trimmed from the beginning and the end. I think they should have stuck more with the core story in San Francisco and maybe developed it a little bit more, or answered more questions there. Maybe even developed the relationship with Jillian a little bit more. I don't know. I think that they could have done more with it. I think the best thing about this movie, I want to compare this may be a wild comparison, but I want to compare this movie to another issue movie that came out in 1987, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace.
Right.
Which, as you guys may remember, is when the Superman franchise takes on nuclear weapons.
Right.
Nuclear weapons.
And it's so terrible. It's such a bad movie, and nobody liked it. And I thought it's interesting that these are two kind of like issue movies. And I feel like lots of times when a big franchise like this takes on an issue and does like an issue movie, it just falls flat. Sometimes even when they try to do an issue TV episode, it falls flat because it does take itself too seriously. Yeah. And I think the fact that this was a comedy, I think made the environmental message shine even more. And I think people actually like went to the theater and were like, yeah, shit, we got to save the whales. Like, maybe I'm being stupid, but I think that's how people are. Yeah. And I think they need art to help them really see the perils and possibilities in our world. And sometimes you need to wrap it in a little sugar to get them to take the medicine. And then my Star Trek rankings, I forever said that this one was my favorite, but I just rewatched all of 1 through 6. I still haven't seen Generations. I have seen First Contact. Is that the one that follows Generations?
Yes.
I don't know why I've always skipped Generations, but I'm just gonna rank. I'm just gonna rank the original.
All right. Sorry. Yeah.
So I think 6 is the best now. Having watched them in such a short back to back, because 6 really does deal with racism in a real way. Like, and it's good. And it's I think it's a really solid movie. Number 4 is going to be my number 2, and then controversial, I'm going 5 for a third. I like Star Trek 5. Okay, I like it.
What is that?
That's actually outrageous.
The Kirk, Spock, and Bones lines are all on point. Again, I always like anything with a relationship. I like the Spock dynamic. So 2 and 3, I'm pretty indifferent on. I could put them either one next. I thought 2 had better execution and acting. I thought 3 had better ideas. I actually really like the resurrection story and the idea of your soul and your body being apart, and like, what does that mean? And like, I wish Spock would have gotten her pregnant, because I think it would be a really interesting story that he got someone pregnant when he like his soul wasn't in his body. Like, that would be a wild storyline. Like, if JJ wants to reboot something, he should reboot that, because I think that would be fun to tackle, especially nowadays. Because now we have, like, I don't know. I just feel like our technology and our discourse on rape is so different now. I think like now would even be the time to like tell that story. And obviously 1 is at the bottom. Even though there were a lot of things I liked about it, but I mean, it's just too slow. 20 minutes of just showing one ship. Was
it's
too
a lot.
much for me.
It's a lot.
But yeah.
All right, cool. I will go quickly, and I just read a few interesting things I found while we were researching. But I think for me, the best is like the kind of general sense of joy this movie has. I think Jeremy was saying too, the cast clearly was vibing on the whole experience. I like, yes, it's cheesy, but I also do like get a little emotional when they're like frolicking with the whales in the ocean at the end. Like, that did it for me. I'm not gonna lie. The time travel head effects are horrible and did not hold up. And that I would put in the worst.
Really
Like, even I think then it must have looked horrible. It was like, whatever, it was a choice. Jeremy's a big fan.
Yeah, it was interesting. Weird goes a long way for me.
Yeah, totally. Okay, a couple quick interesting things, and then we'll just give our ratings before we end here today.
Wait,
So
what
this
about
one's-
me?
Oh, sorry, Stephanie. Oh my God, Stephanie, go. I almost
How
said
dare
most
he?
important one. All right, give us your take.
On the ending, I thought I kind of what Jackie was saying, like Kirk wins again, man. He never has a consequence. Like, he gets away with it, like that bastard, you know. But as a fan for the whole show, I'm like, of course I love it, right? Because Kirk's the guy. But I thought in Star Trek 2, you know, he actually, Spock tells him, you should not have accepted, you know, the promotion. You need to be captain, and you could see him struggle with that in 2. So to me, it was like, this was zero punishment. It was actually a reward, because he was not happy being admiral. So I just thought he got away with it again. I could care less about the goodbye with Jillian, but of course I thought, once again, right, he gets off so easy. And then he gets a brand new ship after destroying the other one. I'm like, typical. I was thinking of so many men I work with. I'm like, yep, this seems about right. I just want to go through. I could totally agree with Jackie, and I don't want to go off on the other stuff, like because I got a lot of stuff with Uhura that I'm like not a fan of. There's a couple moments in other movies where I'm like, okay, she got that, but this movie was not it. In my order of movies, I just have to throw in the order. I like 2 the best, followed by 3. I know that's unpopular because it's emotional. I like the completion of their story, so I like 2 and 3. Whenever I rewatch, I do 2, 3, 4, because that's that whole story of what happened with Spock. And then 5 is just kind of like, oh, here's a totally different story that's so freaking terrible. Now I laugh at it, don't get me wrong, but I don't. It's so, to me, it's like, but the best done movie is 6. It's done the best, but my favorite, if I'm like watching, I think it's 2, 3, 6, 4, 5, 1. 4 is hilarious. It's fun. It's a little too, parts of it, I'm a little too practical with that type of humor or those concepts, but I liked the completion of the story because I actually really love 3. Like, I feel like I cry at the beginning of 3 when Kirk, like when they do the mind melt. Like, I think it's really touching and emotional. So that's my hot take on all the movies. And sorry, everyone, but I do not include any of the other movies in this. When people are like, "Oh, and then this movie and this one," I'm like, "Oh, no, it's only 1 through 6. There's that other stuff. There is no like, and then I like Generations as part of it. No, it's 1 through 6, y'all. 1 through 6.
There, wow. Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, Jeremy, I know we skipped you. Maybe when we do your rating at the end, you can chime in. Anyway, just a few interesting things you guys might. So how it did when it came out. So it came out in obviously 1986, became the top grossing film at the weekend box office. The film's humor, acting, and direction were well received by critics and fans of the series, and it was a financial success, grossing $133 million worldwide. Audiences tended to give it the grade on Cinema Score, give it a grade of A+ on an A+ to F scale, calling it loose, jovial, immensely pleasurable Christmas entertainment. The Washington Post, Paul Anattanasio, respective BBC film, called the review one of the strongest episodes, and proved the franchise could weather the absence of spacebound action and the iconic USS Enterprise and still be highly enjoyable. Newsweek's David Anshin called it the most lighthearted movie in the franchise, the most true in spirit to the original television series, which I think someone mentioned too. In 2018, Popular Mechanics ranked the scene where Chekhov talks about nuclear vessels the 50th greatest moment in science fiction. And it also ended when it was released, Crocodile Dundee's 8-week reign at the American box office. Reign of terror, you might say. And then also, Jackie and Jeremy, it's maybe clear through the discussions here, but like the urban legend on the first 6 movies is that the even numbered movies are the best. The odd numbered movies suck. Whether you agree to that, it holds relatively true if you look at how we talked about 2, 4, and 6 usually on those, which is interesting. And then interestingly too, they had an idea in the original script of having the Bird of Prey decloak above the Super Bowl halftime show, which really would have been something to behold. And then this is where I want to say for Jackie and Jeremy, we should make a weekend out of this. They wanted to shoot the actual Golden Gate Park, but there were heavy rains before they shot it. So the Klingon Bird of Prey landed in Will Rogers Park in western Los Angeles. So clearly we have to go and reenact the scene where the Bird of Prey lands. Maybe Sarah can play Jillian. We can do all that.
I want to be a garbage man.
Yeah. And then finally,
I like the way she fights.
Yeah, exactly. Finally, James Doohan, aka Scotty, said, "Admiral, there'll be whales here." It's his favorite Scotty line. And we'll share after this. We shared it before the stream started. Sarah has some embroidery of this too. We'll share in the show notes. So bring it to an end here. Jeremy, will you tell us about the Strauss scale and how you rate movies?
Yeah, born from COVID movie nights via Zoom. You rank it out of 10. If you don't regret watching it, it starts at a 5, and you follow your heart from there. I am going to give this a 9. I really, really vibed with this movie. I laughed a lot. I got a little emotional at points. I think it's probably the second best Star Trek movie I've seen. I do think that in my head, there's not much I would change from the first J.J. Abrams one. And also it's got a lot more Bryan in it than the other ones.
Yeah.
So that's my favorite. Nemesis is the worst. I literally fell asleep during Nemesis. So yeah, I very pleasantly surprised, and I was happy to get to know this cast, and I think this is a good first impression.
Nice. How about Bryan? What's your take? What's your rating?
Rating all.
Oh, sorry, just of this one on a scale of 1 to 10. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it is my favorite Star Trek movie, but I'm hesitant to give something a 10 unless it's like truly, I mean, my favorite movies of all time are definitely better than I think this one. So I'll give it a 9. I think
Nice.
it's not perfect, but it's a very lovely movie. It's man, like I mentioned many times before, it is my personal favorite of at the very least of the original movies, because I mean there's so many of them now. There's 13 Star Trek movies.
So many. I've lost track.
And I absolutely have my favorites within each generation. I love it's not a hot take. I feel like most people probably consider First Contact the best of the next gen movies. I suppose my hot take of the next gen movies is that Generations is a lot better than people give it credit for.
All right.
But if at the very least speaking for character moments, I feel like not too unlike what Sarah loves about 5. I don't think 5 is a great movie, but I think 5 has excellent character moments, especially for Spock, Kirk, and Bones. And I feel that way, I guess, about Generations, in that I know it's very much a very contrived movie to have scenes where Kirk and Picard are together. But I just love those scenes. It's just a scene where they're making an omelet together. Like, come on, like, and then obviously I'm biased towards the JJ movies since I'm in them, but I, I'm not going to defend Into Darkness. I don't think that one has aged so well, but I love JJ's first Star Trek, and I really love Beyond. I think it's I love the way that well, if at the very least, because JJ and company did this, Orsi and Kurtzman, I think they were the three writers on the reboot, did this great setup of like an in-universe reboot where we could take them on, that set them up for the 5-year mission, and we could have alternate stories with completely brand new stuff with the OG crew. And I think they made the very poor choice in the very next movie to just retell Khan, especially without the setup of Space Seed. So
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so terrible. Don't even get me started.
Yeah.
Oh, no worries. But I mean, that's ultimately why, like, I think Beyond was exactly what the next movie should have been, just an original story of them exploring out in space. And I'm kind of sad that it didn't do that well, and it's still the last Star Trek movie. It's already been like
a while, quite some time.
Yeah, it's over a decade now. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, Star Trek is still thriving. It's back on TV in multiple ways, in Strange New Worlds and in Lower Decks, and Starfleet Academy. I know Picard's over, but Picard's
great.
I really dug Picard. So, anyways, I'm digressing. But otherwise, give this movie a 9. It's just good fun. I feel like it's the most popcorn of them all. And I can have the most fun just putting this one on.
Yeah, Sarah, what was your rating for this?
I feel like it's really hard to give this one a rating because I feel like it's such a nostalgia movie for me. Like, I don't know how to view it as like a critic. So I'm going to say 8 because it brings me a lot of joy. That being said, I know there are problems with the film. I wouldn't say like, oh, it's in this pantheon of like the greatest movies of all time. But if I'm following my heart, I can't give it anything below an 8 just because it brings such joy to me.
Cool. How about Lisa?
All right, so this one, gosh, I really want to give it an 8, but I think I have to give it a 7 just because of, the kind of Star Trek fan that I am, and I really like the lore and the relationships and the science of it, and the slapsticky what stuff. I just didn't like it for such a long time. And I know you guys were like, that's when the movie really began. And it's true. This movie as a whole is a great movie, and it's a great entry point for Star Trek, and which is why that whenever people are like, where do I start out with Star Trek? Well, original series, Star Trek 4. I went up as far as the series were concerned, and I was like, well, if you want to see the original series, you should see, City on the Edge of Forever, right? If you want to see the Next Generation, you should see The Inner Light, so like I do know like my entry point episodes. So I think a 7 on this movie, and I love I love First Contact. I love J.J. Abrams stuff. I agree, kind of not so much the second one. Beyond, I thought was great, because that was the whole point of, should we even be out here exploring? That was the whole message of Beyond. We should not be out here. We don't belong out here. This is not our area. And like, sure, I can understand it's not ours, but we can go out and explore. So yes, we wanted to go on. And yeah, it's kind of interesting that with the Next Generation, then also J.J. Abrams, those last 2 movies weren't very popular, but the last one from the original series was a very good and very popular movie. So it's kind of interesting that they ended up that way. Yep.
Cool. All right, Jackie, your take.
Right. Well, I mean, I am not really like a fan of sci-fi or like space stuff, so keep that in mind. But I'd give this a 6.
Oh, that's higher than I thought. Yeah.
6. Like I didn't like the hero of the story. I didn't feel any connection with him, and I think that a movie should stand on its own as like a piece of art, and it should get the audience to connect with the characters despite if they haven't seen others. I did feel connected to Spock though. Like I really liked Spock, but to me also there was something about the tone of this movie where it like wanted its audience to feel smart. Like there was something self-referential and like kind of obnoxious about it where it was like, yeah, we're the smart Star Trek people. We watch Star Trek. Like, I don't know, like there's like
That's
there
the
was
best.
something like kind of obnoxious about that. And then wait, I had something else I wanted to say. Fuck. I think that's it.
Yeah. Nice. All right, Stephanie. The moment of truth.
I kind of like am like Sarah, like it's such a childhood movie for me that of course anytime you say, do you want to watch this movie with me? The answer is always yes. I'll always watch a movie. I'll always laugh. I'll always make fun of the parts. If I just watched it coming in knowing nothing, I probably would be like 6 at best, right? But because I grew up with it, because I love the characters, I really like the completion of the story that started in 2. Because I was like very concerned. I'm like, well, what the heck is going to happen? Like, that was some pretty big stuff that 3 ended on, even though it ended happily. I really liked having that part of it completed. I liked the silly stuff, of course. But again, it's not one of my favorites, but I think it did bring a lot of people. Like it's like the only Star Trek my husband ever saw as a kid. I've now forced him to watch all of them. Don't worry, but like he actually did watch that one, and most of his buddies watched it. So I think it introduced people to it. I don't know how far that went, but he did want to see all the newer movies that came out because of it. So for that, I don't know. I guess I would say 7 because of the childhood nostalgia and the completion of the story.
Nice. Yeah,
And
I
the
think
quotes, the great quotes.
the quotes. Yeah, I was gonna say 9 for the nostalgia, but I probably go with an 8, kind of similar to Sarah, where seeing like just how long it takes to kind of ramp up, and it's almost one movie sent or bookended by 2 different more traditional Star Trek stories. I feel like I put it at an 8, but still like super memorable, super fun movie. I think for me for sure. So cool. We're wrapping it up here. Do we want to just kind of go around quickly? I know most of the time Sarah has nothing to plug. Anything you want to plug this time, Sarah, where we can find you online? She's like, no. No. Okay, nothing. How about you, Lisa? Let's go over to you.
Nothing to plug yet, but I am hanging out in Stream Team online, and I have the app on my phone, woohoo, which I love. So if you have an
She's beta
opportunity,
testing it. I don't even know if my own wife is beta testing it. We'll see.
it is pretty cool. It has some nice features on it. So, but mostly I'm on the computer, so that's where I am. But yeah, you can find me on Stream Team.
Bryan, as someone new here, anything you want to plug where we can find you online?
Well, just my socials, I guess. I'm mainly on Instagram at bryan.s.lee, but I'm also on YouTube as Bryan Lee. And sorry, I guess I'm bryan.s.lee on Instagram and TikTok, but on YouTube I was able to claim just Bryan Lee. Bryan with a Y. So
Awesome. Stephanie, anything on your side? Guessing probably not. She may have muted.
There she is. She's coming on.
What? Sorry for
Anything,
what?
anything you want to plug? People to follow you online anywhere?
No, you don't want to follow me.
Okay. You got to work. You got to work on it. You got to have something to plug next time. Yeah.
I mean, I could plug a bunch of books I'm reading, but I'm not going to do that. No, I'll have something prepared next time. I'll have a really good plug. I didn't even know what you meant when you were talking plugs. I'm like, what are they talking about?
You got to extract.
I have no online presence or.
Right. Jackie, how about you?
Yeah, I'm mainly on Instagram. I'm like a writer, so I will post stuff about my writing on there. It's Jacqueline Francis.
Awesome. And then, of course, JMO.
I was going to say Jackie's going to be published next month.
Oh, yeah.
So you can look up for that. You can
Yeah.
follow her on social. www.theoldswitcharoo.com. Most of the people on this little discussion have been there, and those who haven't are going to be on soon, I'm sure. We talk about old Nintendo games on Switch, and it's always a good time. So switcharoo.com.
Awesome. We will follow you there. And I am doing too many things, so I have a site called toomuchkyle.com. if you want to find all the too many things that puts them all together. Thank you guys, as always, for coming. We'll figure out what we're going to do for our next session, and we will share more. But thanks for coming to talk about Star Trek.
Sweet.
See y'all later.
It's fun.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.